Okay, people, title to the show would be capitalism versus communism and socialism. Now, the reason why I came up with this topic because I heard studies about capitalism and versus communism and socialism. So we're gonna read this. Okay, we're gonna okay. Okay, capitalism and communism are economic system. They are diametrically opposed. Capitalism is based on the private ownership and voluntary relationships of supply and demand. Communism is based on criminal ownership and the elimination of socioeconomic class struggles. Now, here the difference between capitalism and communism. Ownership. In capitalism, private individuals and business own the means of production and capital. In communism, the means of production are shared communally and private property is non-exempt or severely restricted. Okay. Power. Okay, let me see. Okay, nobody in the chat room. Corporations typically have more power in communism economics. Empirically social economies, corporations are generally owned and operated by the government. Okay, motive. The initial future of capitalism is the motive to make a profit. Communism is based on the goal of eliminating socialism class struggles by creating a class society in which everyone shares but benefit of labor. In capitalism, products, prices, and the disruption of goods are determined by mainly by combination and free market. In communism, the state controls all property and wealth. Capitalism and communism are often seen as extremely threats to each other. However, both systems have adopted over the years and economic cooperation is needed between capitalism and communism countries to coexist peacefully. Okay, we're gonna look at this and then we're gonna play videos about it. Okay, we got two people watching this. Okay. Okay, let me click those things. Click on this again. Oh, here we go. As of March 2024, communism is an official form of government in 5 countries: China, Cuba, Laos, Vietnam, and North Korea. However, these countries don't even claim to have achieved communism, but rather to be working towards established socialism. For example, North Korea is especially considered an independent social state that holds Democrats elections. However, Some outside observers have described the election as unfair, unpre- uncompetitive, and pre-demanded to similar to elections in the Soviet Union. Union. I'm sorry. China has directly reversed its economically to include some capitalism. Many scholars consider the Chinese economics model as an example of ordinary capitalism, state capitalism, party state capitalism. Okay. Mm, okay. We're gonna look at China. China is above capitalism and communist country. China economics model is called a socialist market economically, which is characterized by state and privately owned businesses. China is one of the most world five declared communist states, along with Cuba, Laos, and North Korea and vacancy. However, some say that China economic system represents the form of capitalism where the market socialism. That this is because China has fractional markets that allow private shares ownership and state profits are retained by enterprise. Hold on, let me do this. This is because China has financial markets that allow private shares ownership that stay private retained by enterprise. Huh? China Communist Party (CCP) is the sole ruling part of the People Republic of China. PRC, the CCP has a moderate of political power and decisions are made to few elite leader choose from the community party. I'm sorry. However, in recent decades, the CCP has increasingly adopted capitalism models for its economics. All right, let's click off this. Say capitalism has the things of power and etc. This is exactly why I said this before. Capitalism is the most powerful stuff you can hear because people on Black YouTube need to start talking about this. Hold on, we're gonna play some videos of it too. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Hi, I'm John Green. This is Crash Course World History, and today we're going to talk about capitalism. Yeah, Mr. Green, capitalism just turns men into wolves. Your purportedly free markets only make slaves of us all. Oh, God, Stan, it's me from college. Me from the past has become me from college.
A wrong one. Hold on.
In collaboration with One Dime. Be sure to check out their video, Planet of the Robots, after this. 10 years from now, you could lose your job to a robot. In all likelihood, a robot that does your job better than you ever could. It's inevitable that, over time, more and more jobs can and will be replaced by automation and a variety of labor-saving technologies. And while the exact number is up for debate, a major study by Oxford University estimates that nearly half of current US jobs are likely to be automated or computerized with our current technological trends. Already, we see robots and artificial intelligence driving our cars, taking over the farming industry, writing entire news articles, and even diagnosing and treating medical patients. In grocery stores and McDonald's, low-wage jobs have been replaced by customer-facing robots and touchscreens. Depending on how we respond to this trend, our possible futures can look very different. In this episode, we're looking at what we can expect from this future automation. Or rather, what we can expect in the very different possible futures of automation based on the decisions we make to fully take advantage of our society's rapid technological innovation. For simplicity's sake, we'll restrict our analysis to two scenarios: a high degree of automation under a capitalist economy, and a similar degree of automation under a socialist economy. But first, let's start with a history of automation in general. If you're willing to go back far enough, humanity's evolution has always been directly related to our ability to mechanize and improve upon our physical abilities with tools. Our bodies and societies have progressed alongside and as a direct result of our ability to create objects that make our lives easier, that allow us to produce and consume more efficiently and in greater quantities. At first, it was simple handheld tools made of stone, then crude metals, until eventually we started truly automating basic tasks by powering the first primitive machines with flowing water, steam, and finally, fossil fuels. We continued innovating, creating ever more complex instruments, until they moved beyond completing simple tasks and started dealing with abstract concepts, the same way our brains can. Very quickly, we get to something like proper automation, machines doing things on their own. Specifically, we get to automation under our current economic model, capitalism. Since the origins of modern capitalism coincide roughly with the beginning of industrialization in Britain, that's where we'll start. At its birth, industrialization radically changed many things. The new machines of the industrial era were nothing like the tools that had dominated the history of humanity. They were bigger, more complex, and they needed several people with very particular roles just to function properly. They could produce like no human ever could, and with ever-decreasing levels of human involvement. Right away, this made a massive difference in the working arrangements of most people. From individual shops and farms, industrial machines and factories brought hundreds away from their personal businesses under a single factory roof in increasingly densely populated cities. Supervised by a growing but tightly guarded class of wealthy individuals, workers from neighboring regions were brought into factories, where they no longer had control over the process of production. Their roles became specialized, repetitive, and dull. Work for a wage became compulsory for more and more of the population as the concept of poverty became legally tangible. Capitalism had begun, and at its core were the new machines. With this new social model came new relationships and interest groups, the owner class and the working class, those who owned the factories and the machinery, and those who sold their time and energy to them. While this is going on, machines are growing in their power. They do more, produce more, and take up an ever greater chunk of the responsibilities of workers. And this starts creating problems. Some of the first observers of this era, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, were quick to realize the impact that the ever more capable steam-powered machines would have on this new labor force. They saw, of course, the slums and depths of poverty that these industrial towns had created. But more than that, they saw a new form of power emerge. Automation subjected workers to invisible pressures within the workplace when, as production processes became more automated, human workers had to adapt to the pace set by machines, a pace determined by the capitalist who manufactured and implemented them. Unsurprisingly, this feature of automation hasn't disappeared under more advanced stages of capitalism. Take Amazon warehouses. where workers who are entirely reliant on now fully automated systems have to adapt their working speed to the inhumane rate of maximally optimized robots. Workers lose their independence and their very humanity when they have to complete tasks in 11 seconds or less and take no breaks. Otherwise, they threaten to disrupt a long production chain of which they are only a minor part. Automation breeds its own forms of surveillance, and by that token, its own discipline. The consequences are not just a loss of independence, but also a profound feeling of alienation, personal anguish, and the all-too common injuries at a full 10 per 100 workers in Amazon factories specifically. And that's not all. For Marx, this power was only one side of technological growth. Machines gave the capitalists much more. For starters, these machines made for a perfectly exploitable employee, and it's pretty obvious why. A machine demands no wages. It doesn't demand adequate working conditions, reasonable hours, or bathroom breaks. A machine costs what it costs to buy and maintain, and every single penny of its 24-hour workday afterwards goes back to the capitalist. It's a perfect arrangement. At least, that's the way it seems. One Dime covers this aspect of automation extensively in his video. Of course, this arrangement has its own consequences. Suddenly faced with a new machine that performs better, cheaper, or faster, an entire workforce might be more easily undermined. In theory, its value plummets to the robot standards, allowing the owner class to threaten mass unemployment and eroding whatever resistance workers had created with their collective power. If the employee is not entirely replaced, their job either becomes more menial and alienating or more brutal and unprofitable. Workers are pitted against the machines they are now directly threatened by, rather than the capitalist class, which can shield itself behind the values of technological innovation. Today, this process is happening across all sectors of the economy. Factory jobs were of course the first to go, but they were soon followed by many service and white-collar jobs. As AI progresses, even highly specialized tasks are delegated to machines, taking with them jobs for which humans are no longer the cheapest option. And this poses a dilemma for workers. Asking for higher wages is both good and necessary, especially as living costs everywhere go up. But it puts them and their industries at greater risk of their labor being automated. You can't bargain when someone is holding all the chips. So, rather than settling for low wages out of fear of automation, we should embrace automation, demand higher wages, or perhaps some form of universal basic income, which will not only be necessary for workers, but may even be necessary for capitalism itself to function. But before we get to that, let's take automation under our capitalist system to its logical conclusion based on where we are today. Let's picture what the future of capitalist automation might look like. Technology, AI, and automation in general have improved to such a high degree that the only remaining jobs performed by humans are the few that can't be learned by an algorithm or performed by a set of pistons. The pace of change of new technologies will have gone too quickly to corral people into new job sectors, to the extent that these job sectors even exist. Robots do it all. In a capitalist society of widespread automation and computerization, three classes naturally emerge. At the top sit the rich and powerful, those who own the machines. Below them, those who still have non-computerized jobs and who will naturally be mainly providing services to the wealthy. And underneath them, the jobless masses, the majority of humanity. Things look pretty grim in this future. The first consequence is, predictably, extreme inequality. Under our current means-tested, insufficient, work-conditional methods of welfare distribution and the total absence of a cap to wealth accumulation, existing trends will only continue to drive larger and larger gaps between the rich and the poor. The effects of inequality we see today will only become more extreme, and with even less recourse to organized power. That leads to the second dramatic consequence of a highly automated capitalist society: corporate totalitarianism. A capitalist monopoly on robots virtually guarantees an even more dangerous monopoly on violence. If the ruling elite are no longer reliant on the working class to flourish, workers will be regarded as useless. And if they try to fight back for a better society that benefits the majority, the capitalist state and corporate elite can use their monopoly on technology to crush resistance in even more frightening ways. While today, interests between workers and capitalists are contradictory, a capitalist economy manufactures mutual dependence between the two groups. Workers depend on wages to live, and capitalists rely on workers to produce. Once that relationship is gone, suddenly an entire class of people becomes disposable. To quash the threat that an organized movement would pose to this new social order, the ruling class can either respond with totalitarian control or minimal concession. This would be the end game of inequality. A tiny handful of godlike figures would have total control of this automated society, and everyone else would be left to die, detached from any possibility of scraping together a decent life. These are the dystopias of science fiction films like Blade Runner and The Hunger Games. Unfortunately, we are headed right for them if we don't fight for a post-capitalist future. While it is by no means a complete solution, widespread automation makes an urgent case for UBI, a universal basic income. If it becomes impossible to provide full employment for everyone, and wage labor is the only way to guarantee the money you need to live, a system that can no longer produce jobs but relies on people buying things to exist needs to find a way to make sure that happens. So people turn to UBI. And it's not an entirely unrealistic idea. If capitalist governments become desperate enough, they might even consider UBI out of necessity to ensure the short-term survival of capitalism. For one thing, UBI is pretty easy to implement. Unlike the means-tested welfare programs our politicians usually favor, any universal program that applies to everyone makes for an incredibly simple bureaucratic process. Everyone gets a monthly check, regardless of how much they make, whether or not they're employed, whether they're living alone or with others, eliminating any complex calculations on the government's or citizen side, or any of the ceiling problems you see with conditional welfare programs. Overall, this can bring some well-needed stability, and in a system where jobs are scarce but productivity is high, it's a fairly natural conclusion. There are tangible benefits. Unfortunately, that's about as far as UBI goes. UBI doesn't really guarantee you adequate living. Implemented from above by a capitalist government, a UBI is likely to look like our welfare programs today. Not very generous at best, and a Trojan horse to privatize the entire welfare state at worst. Regardless, concessions like UBI offer us the best-case scenario under capitalism. In the more likely worst-case scenario, elites would see no problem with relying on brutal, right-wing authoritarian forces. An increase in violence, in poverty, and in inequality would separate the haves from the have-nots. And as we've already seen when people resist these trends, there is little hesitation to meet them with military force. The masses would be left to die, and the elite would enjoy the benefits of their privatized gains. This is what extreme automation can look like under capitalism. It is disempowering for the many and inconceivably profitable for the few. At the top, those who benefited from millions of jobs being cut. At the bottom, everyone else. This will happen, because in many ways, it already is. But what does an alternate future, one under a socialist society, look like? The simple answer, much better, unless you're within the top 1% of the capitalist class. As a quick refresher, a socialist economy is one in which the means of production, meaning factories, machines, farms, and so on, are owned in common rather than by private individuals. This can vary quite a lot in practice, but the basic idea is that the economy is subject to democratic practice, not the whims of deeper pockets. In general, socialist economies are characterized by the provision of basic services to everyone. Food, water, shelter, and medicine for all are the greatest priorities of this economic model, rather than profit, which often comes from gatekeeping these essential needs. In this kind of system, automation looks very different. While automation under any system can bring improvements in the quality of life for all, under a socialist economy, it does not do so at the expense of the security of the individual. You might lose your job to a more productive machine, but that won't suddenly throw you into your savings and threaten to kick you out of your home. Quite the contrary. In practice, this can mean any number of things. Where innovations in medicine or agriculture are developed, they are no longer held hostage by intellectual property patents so that only a few people can gain access and only for the highest prices. Vaccines and other life-saving innovations don't have to be life-saving and profitable to be worthwhile. They can just be life-saving. This is innovation under a very wide lens, but automation specifically works in just the same way. And the best way to prove that is to look at how automation affects work under a socialist economy. Whereas the capitalist exploits the advancements of technology to pit the workers against themselves, bringing down their wages, working conditions, or kicking them out of their job entirely, a socialist society has no such pressure to exert. Work being taken out of human hands is just that, no strings attached. Even if automation does not abolish all work, In capitalist or socialist economies alike, it will definitely reduce the amount of work we have to do. Whereas a capitalist system responds to this with unemployment, worsening working conditions, lower wages, or even meaningless jobs that only serve to increase profits without improving anything, a democratic organization of the economy can simply grant the worker more free time. Picture your average day at work when automation has all but taken over. With fewer responsibilities and fewer hours of human work needed, divided across more people whose jobs are also largely taken care of, a workday could be just a few hours long, if that. A work week just a few days. You could return home after a short day, knowing that your needs are taken care of, allowing you to spend your free time whichever way you like. More time means you can take up more hobbies, continue your education, or simply enjoy your life a whole lot more. You could take pleasure in activities that make you more fulfilled, or choose to spend your time working in your community, teaching classes, helping to plant trees, fixing potholes, whatever you want. In our current society, this kind of freedom is a luxury awarded only to the lucky few. Under its automated extreme, that same freedom is lost to meaningless work, to fatigue, and to desperately trying to stay afloat. In a system where your survival isn't directly tied to the hours you work, automation is a blessing, both for you and everyone else. Automation grants you more freedom rather than punishing you for simply existing in a society with scientific progress. It could allow us to move beyond our basic necessities and start climbing up our hierarchy of needs the world over, to start pursuing what really interests us in life, to take up educational, artistic, innovative, or creative pursuits that we would normally not be able to under capitalism without taking immense personal risks or being born into similarly immense privilege. The truth is, we've been waiting for this for decades. Back in the 1930s, economist John Maynard Keynes predicted that technological advancements would allow his grandkids' generation to only work for 15 hours a week, long before automation and artificial intelligence showed us the extent to which human labor could be replaced. The only reason we aren't there yet is the unnecessary capitalist obsession with always extracting more profit. But we can improve our lives without that suicidal greed. And so long as we continue to ignore that fact, our future is clear. This is an incredibly important and complex topic, and we've only just scratched the surface here. If you want a more in-depth look into the various possible futures that automation could bring, be sure to check out One Dime's video, Planet of the Robots, next. It's a fascinating look at one of the most pressing issues of our time. His video goes into the possible dystopian futures that automation could bring, as well as more favorable futures if we can achieve socialism or communism. This kind of content is made possible by my patrons on Patreon. When I decided to make the shift from general interest stuff to more radical political content, I knew I ran the risk of sinking my channel and losing my ad revenue and sponsors. These days, it's pretty hard to get a sponsor on my videos. I have one reliable one, and they're great, but for the most part, I'm having to rely on the generous support of viewers like you. If you appreciate the work I'm doing, and you're able to chip in even $1 a month, I would greatly appreciate the support. As a little show of that appreciation, every patron, regardless of donation amount, gets early access to every video, as well as access to our patrons-only Discord server. It's a great place to hang out, chat with other like-minded people, or learn about socialist theory in our book club. I'm also pretty active in the server, so you're always welcome to ping me to ask a question or just say hi. You can find my Patreon, join our growing Discord server, and get early access to every video at patreon.com/secondthought. If you enjoyed this video, consider dropping a like. If you hated it, a thumbs down. You can check out my previous videos by clicking the links on your screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.
All right, we're gonna play this video now.
Capitalism versus socialism. We can sum up each economic system in one line. Capitalism is based on human greed. Socialism is based on human need, right? No, wrong, so wrong. It's exactly backwards. And I'll prove it to you. Been on Amazon lately? Each of the thousands of products Amazon offers represents the work of people who believe they have something you want or need. If they're right, they prosper. If they're wrong, they don't. That's how the free market works. It encourages people to improve their lives by satisfying the needs of others. No one starts a business making a thing or providing a service for themselves. They start a business to make things or provide services for others. I speak from personal experience. When I was the CEO of the company that owns Carl's Jr. and Hardee's restaurant chains, we spent millions of dollars every year trying to determine what customers wanted. If our customers didn't like something, we changed it, and fast. Because if we didn't, our competitors would, pun intended, eat us for lunch. The consumer, that's you, has the ultimate power. In effect, you vote with every dollar you spend. In a socialist economy, the government has the ultimate power. It decides what you get from a limited supply it decides should exist. Instead of millions of people making millions of decisions about what they want, a few people, government elites, decide what people should have and how much they should pay for it. Not surprisingly, they always get it wrong. Have you ever noticed that late-stage socialist failures always run out of essential items like toilet paper? Of course, this isn't a problem for those who have the right connections with the right people. Those chosen few get whatever they want. But everyone else is out of luck. Venezuela, once the richest country in South America, is the most recent example of socialism driving a prosperous country into an economic ditch. Now, maybe you think it's an unfair example. I'm not sure why, but okay. We'll ignore the fact that leftist activists celebrated it as a great socialist success right up until it wasn't. But what about Western European countries? Don't they have socialist economies? People seem pretty happy there. Why can't we have what they have? Free healthcare, free college, stronger unions. Good question, and the answer may surprise you. There are no socialist countries in Western Europe. Most are just as capitalist as the United States. The only difference, and it's a big one, is that they offer more government benefits than the US does. We can argue about the cost of these benefits and the point at which they reduce individual initiative, thus doing more harm than good. Scandinavians have been debating those questions for years. But only a free market capitalist economy can produce the wealth necessary to sustain all of the supposedly free stuff Europeans enjoy. To get the free stuff, after all, you have to create enough wealth to generate enough tax revenue to pay for everything the government gives away. Without capitalism, you're Venezuela. In a 2015 speech at Harvard, Denmark's prime minister took great pains to make this point. I know that some people in the US associate the Nordic model with socialism. Therefore, I would like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy. So when you point to Denmark as a paragon of socialism, you're really singing the praises of capitalism. The more capitalism, the less socialism you need. Look at America since 2017. A policy of lower taxes and less government regulation, that's more capitalism, has led to a robust economic expansion, something thought impossible just a few years earlier. Unemployment, notably among minority groups typically most at risk for poverty, is at a generational low. Economic expansion gets people off welfare and into work. That's less socialism. None of this requires a degree in economics. Common sense is all you need. That's why it's so frustrating to see young people praising socialism and criticizing capitalism. It's bad enough that they're working against their own interests. Better job prospects, better wages, personal freedom. But they're also working against the interests of the less fortunate. Capitalism leads to economic democracy. Socialism leads to the economic dictatorship of the elite. Always and everywhere. So beware what you ask for. You just might get it. I'm Andy Puzder, the author of The Capitalist Comeback for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To help keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Democratic socialism. It's not the same as socialism because it's democratic, right? Or something, right? People are buying that. People buy that now, right? Apparently. As though adding the word democratic in front of a word changes what it means. Just because we toss something to a vote doesn't change what that something is, nor does it alter whether that something is inherently good or bad. Couple of examples, because I know you'll ask. Hamas was democratically elected as the government in Gaza, despite the fact that the destruction of not only Israel, but the eradication of all Jews is in their official charter. Robert Mugabe, or Bobby Mugabe if you prefer, was democratically elected by a loving majority in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, how's that working out? Venezuela? Well, Hugo Chavez, noted personal favorite and friend of Sean Penn, to whom he constantly pointed as being unfairly characterized as a dictator when in fact he was democratically elected as a socialist. Well, how'd that work out for Venezuela? Well, it's now on the brink of collapse, despite it being one of the most resource-rich nations in the entire world. Basic things like eggs, milk, flour, and toilet paper are either too expensive for the average Venezuelan or simply out of stock. Out of stock, mind you, democratically. I know. Some of you will say, well, that's not fair because really we knew all along it technically was a dictatorship. Okay, that's fair. Let's move on to example number 2. Denmark? Okay, here's the time where you point to an entirely homogeneous population, about 1/60th the size of America's, and you point to that as the blueprint. Okay, let's go there. This is a place where the middle class can't even afford a car because of the 180% new car tax. And the prime minister was so fed up with Americans pointing to it as a beacon for socialist success that he felt compelled to clarify, I would like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy. Sweden? I love Sweden. Okay, great bikini team, and thanks to that country, my armoire now doubles as a bookcase. Speaking of which, the founder of IKEA, let's be honest, the only really cool export from Sweden, aside from a few good hockey players, left Sweden because of the stifling high tax rate. So, Sweden, good place, not bad people, but a successful model for a viable economy in today's global market? Incorrect. The fact is that over time, the greatest enemy of socialism is reality. The reality that human nature will invariably pull certain people toward individualism and success and others toward laziness and collectivism. The tension between the makers and the takers always leads to socialism's inevitable collapse. But I know that I can give you examples of failed socialist economies until I'm blue in the face, and you won't care. Because at least socialism is inherently more morally altruistic than the evil, greedy, capitalist warmongering seen in the West. Greed? What's more greedy than wanting to take from someone else something that you haven't earned? Unlike capitalism, free enterprise, which can only occur truly through voluntary transaction, socialism can only occur at gunpoint. That's what it comes down to. If you don't pay your taxes, once you get through the IRS and the auditing and the lawyers and the PR stunts, people make you give the government your money, an increasing amount of your money, the more successful you are, or they send in scary men with guns to take you away. Now, so long as the people having their stuff taken away at gunpoint are in the minority, and the majority feels that they'll get to benefit from more said taken stuff, you'll always be able to win that decision through a popular vote and claim the moral high ground through democracy. Putting the word democratic in front of your socialism doesn't make it any inherently more moral nor less violent. Did you get that? American wannabe socialists also. Get a job. Please, like a real job. You'll probably have to shave first. I'm Steven Crowder for Prager University.
To subscribe.
Once there was a South American country with a promising future. It had a functioning democracy, a rapidly developing economy, and a growing middle class. All the important indicators, including education, healthcare, and foreign investment, were pointed in the right direction. It was far from perfect, but the mood was hopeful, and with good reason. But now all that promise is gone. The country is a failed state, a hollowed-out shell of its former self. Services like power and water are sporadic. The most basic consumer goods, from bread to toilet paper, are in chronically short supply. Crime has skyrocketed. Freedom of the press is almost non-existent. Democracy has been replaced by a virtual dictatorship. The country is, I'm sorry to say, my beloved Venezuela, a place in which my family has deep roots. I can tell you what happened to it in one word: socialism. In 1999, then candidate for president Hugo Chavez promised to lead the people of Venezuela to a socialist paradise. His theme was Esperanza y Cambio, hope and change. Venezuela is a nation of great wealth, Chavez said, but it's being stolen from its citizens by the evil capitalists and evil corporations. This wrong would be righted, he assured the voters, if they elected him. And they did, to their everlasting regret. Chavez drew inspiration from his mentor, Fidel Castro. Like his mentor, he enjoyed giving speeches that sometimes lasted as many as 7 hours. He even gave himself his own weekly television show, where he would spontaneously break into song. Here's a rule: when your nation's leader starts singing on national television, you're in trouble. Under Chavez, the government of Venezuela took over industry after industry. The government, he assured everyone, would run these businesses better than private enterprise, and the profits would be shared by the people. With great fanfare, he tore up contracts with multinational oil and gas companies and demanded that they pay much higher royalties. When they refused, he told them to leave. They did. His image was burnished by Hollywood celebrities who flocked to see the great work he was doing, taking money from the rich and giving it to the poor. Progressive politicians from the US and Europe also praised him lavishly. Here's another rule. When Hollywood celebrities visit your country to praise your leader, you're in trouble. When the leader sings on national television and is praised by Hollywood celebrities, you're doomed. Socialism always works in the beginning, so people are fooled in the beginning. It's easy for governments to confiscate money, but eventually, there's no more money to confiscate. In the case of Venezuela, I mean that literally. People who could get money out of the country did. Many left the country altogether. Nearly 2 million, according to Venezuelan sociologist Tomás Paez. The wealth creators continue to create wealth, but they created it somewhere else, Miami or Madrid, and other places around the world. When Chavez first ran for president in 1999, he said he would leave in 2 years if people weren't happy with him. But, like Castro, Chavez never had any intention of giving up power. He died in office in 2013, replaced by his vice president, Nicolás Maduro. Maduro is Chavez without the charisma or the voice. The country is now a pariah, shunned by the world and isolated. It's so bad that many international airlines refuse to fly there. People stand in lines for hours just to get food. Sometimes they walk away empty-handed. A recent survey found that 75% of Venezuelan adults lost weight in 2016, an average of 19 pounds. This national weight loss program is known cynically as the Maduro diet. Still, Maduro holds on to power. Opposition leaders and journalists who report the truth are jailed. Venezuela is a cautionary tale. Once a country goes down a socialist path, there's no easy way back. And the longer a country stays socialist, the harder it is to reform it. Venezuela has been socialist for 2 decades. If you don't think it can happen here, whether here is the United States or Europe or anywhere else, you're fooling yourself. When people get used to depending on the government, no matter how poor they remain, that dependency is hard to break. That's why you should never buy the socialist lie. Socialism is a drug, and like a drug, it feels great at first, but eventually it will ruin your country, just like it ruined Venezuela. I'm Debbie D'Souza for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. As a nonprofit, PragerU relies on donations from viewers like you. Please consider making a donation.
See, the microphone volume went down. Turn this up. Let me move my microphone back. We're gonna play a couple of videos and then we're gonna take a music break. And this time we're not playing no more copyright music. We're gonna play non-copyright music. Okay, let me do this.
Each one of these machines represents the economic system of a country. Every machine has three inputs: labor, people's work; capital, all the stuff that a business might use, including intangibles like ideas; and natural resources. The machine converts these inputs into goods and services, and because we're willing to pay for the things the machine produces, what the machine is really creating here is value. Economies turn inputs into value. What determines whether the machine is capitalist, communist, socialist, or something else? Three dials. The first dial controls who owns the capital. Over here, the government owns every bit of capital, down to the last office paperclip. North Korea is probably the closest economy to 0%. On the other end of the spectrum, at 100%, private citizens own all the capital. The US is about here, at roughly 2/3 private ownership. The second dial dictates how much control the government has over what gets produced. In economies with high coordination, like the old USSR, the government dictated what the economy could and would produce. In economies with low coordination, the government might mandate a few things, but leaves most decision-making up to the private sector. The third dial controls how extensively markets are used to set prices. Over here at 0%, we have economies with no markets, where the government sets all prices and consumers have no say. Over here at 100%, markets are used to set the price of everything, even things like basic life-saving healthcare. You can also think of this dial as controlling the number and extent of government regulations, from tariffs on foreign goods to antitrust laws to regulations on net neutrality. So capitalism isn't just one type of economy. It's a wide range of possible economies, which makes answering the question of whether capitalism is broken complicated, but we're going to try. At the height of the Industrial Revolution, the dials were set pretty close to what we'd now call free market or laissez-faire capitalism. There were very few regulations, and economists of the time believed that capitalism's invisible hand, basically individuals acting freely and in their own self-interest, would produce optimal outcomes, both for the economy and for society. And that's how we ended up with embalming fluid in milk. In the late 1800s in the United States, food manufacturers put all kinds of cheap and sometimes dangerous adulterants in food to maximize profits. What they were doing was legal, but of course, wrong. There was a public outcry, and in 1906, Congress passed the Pure Food and Drugs Act, setting the stage for the Food and Drug Administration, which watches over the U.S.'s food supply to this day. Now, these days, no economy really practices pure, invisible hand capitalism, but some people are increasingly worried that today's threats, like climate change and rising inequality, can't be solved by any capitalist system. Let's look at climate change first. Capitalist economies incentivize growth. That's created massive demand for the cheapest energy possible, which for a long time was fossil fuels. Burning all those fossil fuels unquestionably drove and continues to drive climate change. Not only that, but the desire to maximize profit usually gives corporations a powerful incentive to ignore inconvenient truths. Just like tobacco companies denied the link between cigarettes and cancer, oil and gas companies denied or downplayed climate science for decades. Next, inequality. Inequality is complicated enough that we made a whole video about it. But the simple story is, in many countries, inequality is rising. In the US, the UK, Canada, Ireland, and Australia, the top 1% of income earners have been eating up a larger and larger share of total income over the past 50 years. In the UK, the top 1% share doubled from 7% in 1980 to 14% in 2014. But that's not the whole picture. In England, the country for which we have the best data before capitalism, the share of income going to the top 5% of income earners peaked at around 40% in 1801. And then, as capitalism took hold, it fell steadily to a low of about 17% in 1977. These days, it's back up, hovering around 26%. And here's another data point. In many European countries and Japan, the top 1% share of income came down from 20 to 25% in the early 1900s to 7 to 12% today. So is capitalism increasing inequality or not? It depends. Remember, there's a wide range of settings that all fall under capitalism, meaning that one country's version can look very different from another's. It's totally possible that inequality could be increasing in China's version of capitalism while it decreases in France's. Capitalism, it seems, is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it generates a huge amount of value, which translates to almost everyone having more money than they otherwise would. On the other hand, it also funnels the biggest chunk of that money into the wallets of relatively few people. Capitalism's staunchest defenders say that with enough grit and determination, anyone can join the ranks of the wealthy. Is that really true? In a free, capitalist market, the wealth generated by successful companies mostly flows to the owners, and along with that come other benefits: education, health, social standing, and power. If owners tinker with the machine so that it benefits them more than others, they create a feedback loop where power and everything that flows with it calcifies within their families. And then you've got basically an aristocracy. So let's break down the question we started with. Is pure, invisible hand capitalism with all the dials set to the extremes broken? Yeah, but it's also kind of irrelevant since no country uses pure capitalism. Is contemporary capitalism, as it's practiced in much of the world today, broken? Well, it's the major driver of climate change and in many places is contributing to rising inequality, and it may even be creating a de facto aristocracy in certain countries, so not looking good. The critical question is, can we fix contemporary capitalism by fiddling with the dials or restricting who can turn them, or do we need to tear the machine down and build a new one from scratch? And will any of it make a difference? Is inequality inevitable? Explore the role we can play in determining the answer to this question with this video.
We don't need a partner. All right, music break.
that the brothers on the rise now. Endless celebrations all in my house. Levitating now, I'm super duper fly now. London boy, but DC where I reside now. Put the time in while you always yelling time out. And for critic, cause I know I'm coming with it. You were sitting, you were wishing I was handling my business. Now I got the ball like Harry Potter playing Quidditch. And my business is humongous, you would think that happens in it. Damn man, I'm all that, yeah, I'm all that. Looking for that whip, yeah, that what you call that. I'ma blow up in the summer, have him yelling fall back. And I've always been ahead like an effing ball cap. Man, I came in the game like, whoa. Got a couple chains on me cause I like gold. They told me I'm the best and I told them I know. Cause when I'm in your town, every ticket I sold. Yeah, they saying I'm the man. Facts, bro. Facts, lot of haters. Tell me where they at though. I'm the new pop, all I do is rap though. Want me on your song, throw a couple stacks, yo. Woo! Everybody wanna do the same thing. Yup, that's why we ain't on the same page. Do my own thing and I maintain. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. Yeah, I'm going mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream. I'm going mainstream. Mainstream. Flow like water, so I'm going mainstream.
I know we grew up a little too fast. I miss the days that we chill and relax. Where did the time go? It all passed. Now I need to go back. I had no worries, but always had plans. The only thing I did was pick out the trash. Now it's much harder to laugh. Hard to get up and then work on my craft. I need inspiration. Don't need no validation. No more medication. Just try some meditating. I don't need you to save me. Feel like all of you hate me. Everything's been so hard with all the situations lately. I just need to numb the pain for a minute. I just wanna run away on vacation. I don't know what else to say now. I just need to numb the pain. Just need to numb it up.
ouvindo, mas tem pensão demais. Se eu vou lá no sapo, me chama de pai. Na igrejinha, me chama de pai. Se eu e como ficar rico?
If your enemy's a road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day like the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he grows me. And he gets claws real big, pissed off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling this war. Never getting bored, loves the blood and gore. Always wanting more freedom from the source. They don't really understand until they feel the force apart. If you start shit, you'll be heartless in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you left scars ripped. You'll be chewed up and discarded. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. I can feel my heart rate, adrenaline pressure. It's stormy weather, lightning, thunder, pouring weather. Yo, I'm a go-getter, try to do it like me, but I do it better. I got a mind that's clever, the beast inside is competitive as ever. I'm conscious, my subconscious, an accomplice to me. I promise the darkness, I can honest believe. But don't cross me, I might lose control of the lost beast. He's locked away inside with the key control by fight or flight. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'm not giving. I'm not
Most days I can barely leave my bed, 'cause someone lives rent-free inside my head. I say I'm not okay, I'm terrified when I go to sleep, when I close my eyes. What the hell am I supposed to do? Oh my God, I can't breathe, and I don't know why. Angels come and they leave into the midnight sky. You only know how much you meant. You only know the time we spent. Take the pain from my heart and make it whole again. Please, God, can you give me some relief? I've been out here hiding like a thief. I'll pull the windows down when I feel low. Keep my demons close so nobody knows the side that lives inside of me. Oh my God, I can't breathe, and I don't know why. Angels come and they leave into the midnight sky. You only know how much you meant. You only know the time we spent. Take the pain from my heart and make it whole again. Skeletons, nightmares, I don't think they fight fair. Why am I so sad all the time? I don't wanna take my drugs, I just wanna be okay. Will I ever feel again? Skeletons, nightmares, I don't think they fight fair. Why am I so sad all the time? I don't wanna take my drugs, I just wanna be okay. Will I ever feel again? Oh my God, I can't breathe. Angels come and they leave. You only know how much you meant. You only know the time we spent. Take the pain from my heart and make it whole again.
Already.
Most days I can barely be. Most days I can.
Humans, what have you learned? I was programmed to beat you.
Okay, we're back now. Now, the reason why we're gonna get back to this topic because I came up with this topic to talk about things about capitalism, communism, and socialism because people are not gonna talk about this. So I mean, capitalism it just not bad at all. Capitalism, because I read it before you go back to the video. What I did. I mean, this don't make any sense. Like people are not gonna speak about this. Oh well, I got one person watching. Who cares? I'll go. I will go. Talk about this anyway. So I'll play this type of video. So I'm trying to educate y'all, but you don't want to get educated. So that's on you. You want to. So what's the difference about this certain topic? Oh, I forgot to put fascism. Sorry. We're gonna talk about that now. Hold on. Let me edit. Okay, here we go. Let me screen share this. Okay, here we go. Now see, gonna blow this up right here. Okay, two people watching this. I'll probably stay here longer since I'm not getting sleepy. If I get sleepy, y'all, I will end the live stream. So I'm not getting sleepy yet. Okay, let me see. You see this right here? Okay, y'all see this right? Hold on. I had to remove certain stuff on here. Hold on. Okay, we're gonna talk about fascism. Okay, let's click off this now. Oh yeah, this is right here, right here. I want here we go. Now this is the video I want to play right here. Here we go.
Zimmerman, welcome to Illustrate to Educate. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support more simple and objective videos on topics that matter. What is fascism? In this video, we'll dive into everything you need to know about it. Fascism is a complex and mutable political ideology, but is typically defined as a far-right, authoritarian, ultranationalist political ideology and movement, characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy, subordination of individual interests for the perceived good of the nation and race.
I'll drop the link if somebody will come on the panel. Hold on. But come on here with some fuck shit, you're getting kicked off the panel, okay? I ain't got time for it, okay? So I'll drop the link and I'm gonna pin. No, I'm not gonna do that. What I'm gonna do, matter of fact, I'll pin the link. Let me do that. Undo. All right.
And strong regimentation of society and the economy. The word comes from the Italian fascio, meaning a bundle or a group, and is considered a term for a militant brotherhood. The word fasces means an axe tightly bound with sticks, an image that became a symbol of the fascist movement. The symbolism of fasces suggests strength through unity. A single rod is easily broken, while the bundle is difficult to break. Fascism came to prominence in the 1920s and 1930s in Europe. The most notorious examples of fascist governments have been Benito Mussolini's National Fascist Party in Italy from 1922 to 1943, and Adolf Hitler's National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party, from 1933 to 1945. Other countries have also been ruled in the 20th century by fascist regimes, such as Francisco Franco in Spain and Juan Perón in Argentina. According to some definitions, fascism rejects assertions that violence is inherently bad and views imperialism, political violence, and war as a means to national rejuvenation. Fascists often advocate for the establishment of a totalitarian one-party state and for a dirigist economy with the principal goal of achieving autarky, national economic self-sufficiency, through protectionist and economic interventionist policies. Fascism's extreme authoritarianism and nationalism often manifests as belief in racial purity or a master race, usually blended with some variant of racism or bigotry against a demonized other, such as what was seen with Jews during the Hitler era. Ideas such as these have motivated fascist regimes to commit genocides, massacres, forced sterilizations, mass killings, and forced deportations. Since the end of World War II in 1945, few parties have openly described themselves as fascists. The term is more often used derogatorily by political opponents. The descriptions of neo-fascists and post-fascists are sometimes employed to describe contemporary parties with ideologies similar to or rooted in 20th century fascist movements. Core fascist ideologies and goals similar to those of Hitler and Mussolini are still present in populist organizations today and continue to shape fascist movements in countries around the world, particularly where their leaders are, number one, someone who claims to speak for a whole nation or group, 2, is utterly unconcerned with the rights of others, and 3, is willing to use violence and whatever other means are necessary to achieve the goals he or she might have. Some opposition groups have adopted the label anti-fascist or Antifa to signify their stance. What are your thoughts about fascism? If you enjoyed this video, please like and comment and subscribe to Illustrate to Educate. Also check out some of my other videos to the right for more simple and objective videos.
Okay, let's talk about fascism. Okay, let's read this. Okay, let me read it for you. Fascism is a political economic movement that is characterized by ultralism, and dictatorial leader. Fascist realism are revolution advancing for the. No, I'm not gonna read all this. Never mind. I'm just gonna scroll this so everybody. Hold on, let me blow this up. And I'm gonna show you who's the leader, who's the founder of fascism. Here you go. Let me put his name on there too. Hold on. See, I see that's the dude right here, right here. So we're gonna play this video and then I'll probably stay here longer. And also he allied himself with Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini. So we're gonna search up, we're gonna look him up to paste and search. And see, you know what? I'm not gonna read all this. We're gonna scroll down this. We're gonna play him and then see when I start doing researches, all y'all like to do is call me out my damn name. So that's all y'all like to do, just call me out my damn name. As soon as I start doing research, y'all still want me calling me names. So y'all don't care what I say. So take your asses somewhere else. See, Okay, so we're gonna play the video of him then.
Part of the History Hit Network. Stick around to find out more.
Nah, hold on.
This channel is part of the History Hit Network. Stick around to find out more.
In cui Roma aveva Cesare, Virgilio ed Augusto.
His speeches leave Italy bewitched.
There was something almost magical that would suck people into his thinking. He, in effect, kind of hypnotized.
But behind all Benito Mussolini's bluster and posturing lies a dark heart of violence and brutality.
Adolf Hitler looks at Mussolini as someone who is providing a blueprint as to how to destroy the old order.
This is the story of Il Duce, the boss, and how his love of Italy inspires an epic rise to power. But whose devotion to inflicting fear ultimately...
My pick, we're gonna put him on the list too. Okay, I can't. Hold on, I can't. Hold on, turn this off. Here we go. Watch it.
He was Il Duce. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be learning more about the life of Benito Mussolini.
Benito Mussolini. Wait a minute. Whoa. Hold on.
Learning more about the life of Benito Mussolini.
Benito Mussolini. So we're gonna talk about him.
Benito Amilcare Andrea Mussolini was born July 29, 1883 in Predappio, Italy. Due to his father's political inclinations, he was named after prominent socialist leaders. Mussolini was a disruptive but intelligent student. He developed beliefs similar to his father's and joined the Socialist Party in 1900. After graduating, he worked briefly as a teacher before moving to Switzerland in 1902 to evade military service. In 1904, Mussolini was deported to Italy and served 2 years in the army. He was soon considered one of the country's foremost socialists, and after becoming editor of the Socialist Party newspaper Avanti, he significantly improved readership. When World War I began in 1914, the Socialist Party disapproved of Italian intervention. Mussolini eventually supported the war, and this got him ejected from the party. He then aligned himself with revolutionary nationalist beliefs and produced the pro-war newspaper Il Popolo d'Italia. In 1915, Mussolini rejoined the army and served in the war before an injury sent him back to his newspaper job. By 1919, he created the Italian Combat Squad as an alternative to socialism. This coincided with a period of Italian social discord known as the Biennio Rosso, or 2 Red Years, when his paramilitary fascist black shirts publicly sparred with socialists and other groups. In 1921, the Combat Squad became the National Fascist Party, and Mussolini won a seat in the Italian Chamber of Deputies. His party was soon ready for power. In October 1922, the March on Rome resulted in the Fascist Party seizing power. On October 31, 1922, Benito Mussolini became the 40th Prime Minister of Italy and the youngest to that point. Mussolini spent the next years disassembling the Italian democratic system, using propaganda to portray himself as the only man capable of unifying the country, and transforming Italy into a one-party state. In 1925, he made himself dictator and took the title of Il Duce, or the leader. The fascists were accused of using violent force to crush political foes. However, despite some assassination attempts, Mussolini was initially widely supported due to his efforts fighting unemployment and financial decline. One of Mussolini's most significant achievements was the Lateran Pact of 1929. This treaty settled the long-standing dispute between Italy and the Roman Catholic Church and created the independent state of Vatican City. Mussolini then began colonizing African countries to create a new Roman Empire. For example, 1935's Ethiopian War resulted in that country's seizure by the Italian Empire. In 1936, Mussolini sent military aid to Spanish dictator Francisco Franco in the Spanish Civil War. This pushed Mussolini closer to Nazi Germany's dictator Adolf Hitler, though their early relationship was unstable. To strengthen ties, Mussolini adopted the anti-Semitic Manifesto of Race in 1938, despite disagreeing with its premise. In 1939, the Pact of Steel solidified the Rome-Berlin axis of 1936. Despite this, Italy initially remained uninvolved in World War II, following Germany's invasion of Poland. By June 1940, Mussolini thought the war was almost over, so he entered Italy in the conflict as an Axis power by declaring war on Britain and France. Losses in Greece and North Africa soon showed Italy's military shortcomings. From 1942, Mussolini steadily lost support. Following the Allied invasion of Sicily in July 1943, he was ousted from power by the Italian king and subsequently arrested. In his absence, the Fascist Party was disbanded and a truce was signed with the Allies. Germany then invaded Italy in September 1943. Meanwhile, German forces freed Mussolini from prison. He wished to retire from politics. However, he ended up Hitler's puppet as head of a new fascist regime called the Italian Socialist Republic. The Allied presence then spread northward through Italy. On April 27, 1945, as Mussolini attempted to escape to Switzerland, he was captured by Italian partisans and executed by firing squad the next day. His body was then hung in a Milan town square to dissuade other fascists from carrying on the cause. Due to his vanity, womanizing, and egotism, Benito Mussolini shaped Italian and world history and proved himself as one of the 20th century's most controversial dictators.
Okay, let me play two of these videos right here. Okay. Wrong video right here. Okay, let me see. All right, let's play this video.
In this unit, we need to go into some difficult territory. We are going to talk about fascism. Fascism was probably the most explosive and damaging political phenomenon of the 20th century, and it is also an explosive and misunderstood word. Have you heard people use this word? It is often thrown around as a way of denouncing a political system, movement, or leader one fears or doesn't like. Fascism is a definable thing, and in some places, most notably Italy and Germany, it was a system of government. It is extremely important to understand the meaning and history of fascism so that we can all notice when it is beginning to appear and when fascists are beginning to acquire power. The word fascism comes from the Italian word fascio, which just means a bundle or sheaf. It had long been used as a political image in Europe. Because a bundle of sticks is hard to break, this image was used by late 19th century Italian revolutionaries to symbolize their commitment to each other and to militant action. Then, in 1914, a copy editor and former socialist named Benito Mussolini, having turned his back on socialism, was looking for a name for his new political group. He chose Fascio Rivoluzionario d'Azione Interventista, Revolutionary League for Interventionist Action. Later, in 1919, Mussolini created the Fasci di Combattimento, or Fraternities of Combat. In this simple name, he managed to capture the sense of exclusive community they were trying to create, the male-dominated nature of the organization, and the glorification of aggression that lies at the heart of fascism. Eventually, Mussolini founded the National Fascist Party, and this was its symbol. So, now we have a better understanding of where the word fascism came from. But what is fascism? Historian Robert O. Paxton, in his book, The Anatomy of Fascism, came up with this definition. That's a long paragraph, so let's take it one bit at a time. First, Paxton calls fascism a form of political behavior. He is telling us that it is important to pay attention to what fascists do and not just what they say. Fascist leaders like Mussolini and Adolf Hitler gave dramatic speeches and produced manifestos. But these do not tell us much about how they actually acquired and used power. Fascist behavior aims to bring together different groups of angry, discontented extremists and to figure out how to get them to work with each other. Fascists have to form alliances with existing elite groups and individuals, and to figure out how to get ordinary people's cooperation. How can they convince people to let them change society and commit atrocities, or at least get them to not resist? One answer, Paxton says, is that fascists spin messages about community decline, humiliation, or victimhood, and say that they can unify, energize, and purify this community. But in order to benefit from people's anger or sense of victimhood, they must first tell a story about who is a member of the community and who is not. In late 19th and early 20th century Europe, ideas about race provided the easiest, you might say laziest, way to think about who could belong to a community. Once fascists had defined the nation in terms of race, they could claim to know how to purify and strengthen the nation and justify radical violence to exclude or eliminate those perceived as outsiders. Of course, in order to convince the public that their stories about race and nation were right and true, fascists had to challenge other stories. In the 1920s, Mussolini's National Fascist Party and Hitler's National Socialist Party both tried to push Italian and German workers and artisans into extreme forms of nationalism. But to do this, they had to pull people away from international movements like socialism, communism, pacifism, and feminism. Socialism, which used class rather than nation or race to define community, was especially hated by fascists. So the emphasis in the Nazis' formal name should be more on the national than the socialist. But neither party fits neatly into ideas of right and left. Hitler and Mussolini claimed that they would eliminate class conflict, but not through international cooperation or worker control. They thought that it would happen through national unification, racial cleansing, a return to traditional roles and values, and state-controlled or corporatist economies. Fascists believed in elevating a pure state above all else. Everything for the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state, Italian fascists like to say. In theory, this elevation of the state was supposed to pull a country together for la razza, the people or the folk. In practice, fascism generally ended up benefiting capitalist owners and industries, while capitalist industries supported the state. As Paxton said, fascism worked in uneasy but effective collaboration with traditional elites. In the process, democracy was sacrificed to benefit those economic elites and the fascists themselves. Lastly, Paxton states that fascism pursues with redemptive violence and without ethical or legal restraints goals of internal cleansing and external expansion. In short, fascism glorifies violence, conquest, and war, and disdains existing legal restrictions on their exercise. Total war is the only kind of war for fascists. Early fascist violence was in fact rooted in the devastation and confusion after World War I. And then war-making in the 1930s and 40s helped fascist regimes solidify their rule. As Hitler said to Joseph Goebbels, his Minister of Propaganda, "War made possible for us the solution of a whole series of problems that could never have been solved in normal times." Terribly, the problems that Hitler and other fascists wanted to solve often included the very lives of people they considered to be outside the nation. One last thing that did not make it into Paxton's definition, but that is prevalent in all fascist movements, is the use of symbolic imagery, staged events, and propaganda. Fascist movements always use local symbols and myths in order to increase their appeal. In order to make this more clear, we will leave the well-known cases of Italy and Germany and consider one other example, the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s United States. You might think of the United States as a country that fought fascism in World War II. But fascism has come in waves inside the US too, starting in the late 19th century. Some Americans admired Mussolini, and for a while, even Hitler. The Ku Klux Klan, wrote Charles Edward Jefferson, a pro-Klan minister in 1920s New York, is the Mussolini of America. 1920s Klan members believed that white Protestant Americans were victims of a rapidly changing and diversifying United States. They formed militias, advocated a white nationalism, and claimed that they could cleanse the United States of immigrants and other un-American elements. They were anti-Catholic, anti-Black, and anti-Semitic, believing that those groups were outside of the nation. Their symbols were both political and religious. In their rallies, they flew American, not Confederate flags, and they burned crosses, both as a threat and as a symbol of their militant Christianity. Okay, so now we've learned where the term fascism came from, some ways that fascism grew under Mussolini and Hitler, and we've seen another, maybe unexpected, example of a local fascist movement. Now let's talk about what fascism is not. Fascism is sometimes used interchangeably with the terms authoritarianism and populism. Fascism includes elements of both, but they are not identical. Authoritarianism is a basically conservative political stance concerned with maintaining order. Authoritarian rulers often use existing institutions like the military, the monarchy, or the church in order to do this. 1930s Spain under Francisco Franco is often called fascist, but many historians disagree with this label. When it came to ruling, Franco was authoritarian and extremely conservative, rather than fascist. He was a military general who ignored the demands of his radical fascist allies and instead worked closely with the existing monarchy, capitalist businessmen, and landowners. His brutal tactics during the Spanish Civil War were used against political and ideological enemies, but not so much racial or national others. Populism is a political stance that is critical of elites and that claims to fully represent the people. Populists can easily dismiss their opponents by claiming that they do not truly understand or represent the people in an authentic way. But populism does not typically rest on the kinds of obsessive ideas about national or racial purity and aggression that fascism promotes. Juan Perón's rule in Argentina from 1946 to 1955 is an example of a populist dictatorship that was not fascist. Perón used personal popularity with the people to take and wield power, often against political enemies, but not by singling out a national or racial enemy. Fascism.
All right, we're going to play this video, then we out.
Ultimately brings his country to its knees.
It's at a community guidelines. Never mind. Let me type. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to our channel where we explore various topics and delve into the fascinating world of history. Today we will be discussing 10 interesting facts about Benito Mussolini, the infamous fascist party leader. Fact number 1, early life.
Okay, copyright.
When people use the terms fascism or fascist today, they're usually using it in a derogatory way to refer to a group, a regime, or even an individual that is overly aggressive and controlling and totalitarian. But its roots actually lie with Benito Mussolini, who was in power in Italy during the 1920s and 1930s and through World War II. And they proudly call themselves the fascists and their ideology as fascism. And the word or the root of fascist and fascism come from the Italian word fascio, which literally refers to a bundle. And it comes out of this idea that a bundle of things will be stronger together than individually. And this is actually the symbol for fascism. And this symbol of this bundle, this sheaf, of sticks. This actually predates Mussolini by thousands of years. It goes back to Roman times, and even based on some of the things I've read, even predates Roman times as a symbol of unity, a symbol of official strength. And even before Mussolini came around, the term was used by many groups that viewed themselves as a league of revolutionaries, a group of people somehow fighting for change. And Mussolini was no different when in the end of 1914 and then in early 1915, he establishes the Fasci di Azione Rivoluzionaria. And I'm once again so sorry for my butchering of an Italian word. But this literally translates to Group Action Revolutionary, or you could say the Revolutionary Action Group, founded by Mussolini in 1915. And it was really a splinter of the Socialist Party. And there's an irony there because Mussolini, and fascism in particular, is associated with strongly anti-socialist ideology. But as we enter into, or as Europe was entering into World War I in 1914, some of the social, or the mainstream of the Italian Socialist Party was against Italy entering the war. They wanted Italy to maintain their neutrality. But you had splinter groups, more nationalist groups that said, hey, look, this is Italy's chance to claim what's its right. It should join the war on the inside of the Entente. And Mussolini was one of these individuals. And because of his strong pro-war stance, he was actually kicked out of he was head of a socialist paper in 1914. And then he eventually, by 1915, establishes the Fasci di Azione Rivoluzionaria. And by the end of World War I, as we get into 1919, it regroups under the name Fasci Italiani di Combattimento. So this literally translates as, you could view Fasci as a group or league or revolutionary league of Italians of combatants, or the combatant Italian revolutionary group, I guess is one way to think about it. Or the group of Italian combatants is another way to think about it. And their ideology wasn't well established right when they set up. It was just really around this idea that of being super pro-nationalist, but it began to develop over the course of the 20s and the 1930s. The core idea, and I've already said it multiple times, is kind of an extreme nationalism. Extreme nationalism. And when we talk about extreme nationalism, or nationalism in general, it's talking about the interests of one nation, of one group above all others, about putting the state above all other things. Oftentimes, fascism is viewed as a right-wing group, but in its purest form, it's neither left or right-wing. At the left end of the spectrum, you could imagine communist or socialism. I'll write communism, which is kind of, you can view as an extreme form of socialism. Communism. And at the extreme right, you could imagine, just complete free market. Complete unfettered free market, ultra small government. And fascists and extreme nationalists, they didn't view themselves as either end of the spectrum. They kind of viewed themselves as a separate way where everything was subordinate. The economy itself was subordinate to the state. Now, with that said, they tended to align themselves more with folks on the right. So even though they weren't completely free market capitalists, they were staunchly anti-communist and anti-socialist, which caused them to form alliances a little bit more with the right. But from their point of view, it wasn't one of these extreme right-wing ideologies that the government should be subordinate to the economy, that the government should be as small as possible. It was much more that the economy was there to serve national interests. Some of the other kind of ideologies that the fascists began to hold is this idea that force was a legitimate part of politics. So force in politics. And we see this when Benito Mussolini's fascists, through the use of the black shirts, which was their paramilitary group, which allowed them to eventually take political control and enforce political control. And we later see it with other groups, like the Nazis, who are also tended to be associated with fascism, and their stormtroopers and their storm battalions, their paramilitary forces that are used to essentially take political control. The other aspect of them, and as you can imagine when we're talking about either Mussolini or the Nazis, is that they weren't really fans of democracy, that they really, not only did they think that everything should be subordinate to the state, but that the state should have absolute control. So it's not about democracy, it's about having a strong leader at the top, a strong one party at the top, and in the case of Mussolini, it was a fascist. In the case of Hitler, it ends up being the Nazis. So totalitarian, completely totalitarian. And then they also, and these kind of all gel together, this idea of aggressive foreign policy. And this aggressive foreign policy is really is rooted in this belief of cultural superiority. And if you take the case of the Nazis, this belief in extreme racial superiority, cultural superiority. And I'm making a slight distinction there because in Mussolini's eyes, he was actually quite disparaging. Even though Hitler looked to Mussolini as something of a role model when Mussolini took power in 1922, it inspired Hitler's beer hall putsch. Mussolini did not think much of Hitler through much of the 1920s and even early 1930s. He thought Hitler's ideas of racial purity were really an illusion, that there was no racially pure race. He didn't really appreciate Hitler calling the Italians a mongrel race. But Mussolini himself did think that the Italians were culturally superior, and that would be their justification for an aggressive foreign policy, for them taking over other territory in Europe and in Africa. And as we'll see, because they shared so much in common ideologically, the Nazis were, you could kind of view as a more extreme form, and the fascists themselves were quite extreme, but the Nazis were a more extreme form of the same ideology. They will, even though in the 20s and early 30s, Mussolini is more eager to align himself with some of the other powers in Europe, in particular Great Britain and France. As we go into the second half of 1930s, Mussolini and Hitler find themselves to be kindred spirits. They both want to be aggressive in their foreign policy. They both want to secure other territory. They both have this idea that they need space for their superior populations, to their culturally superior, and in the case of the Nazis, racially superior populations, to grow and thrive. And so as we enter into the second half of the 1930s and World War II, you have Mussolini and the fascists become close allies of Hitler and the Nazis.
All right, let's play this video right here.
Did you know Mussolini was a member of the Italian Socialist Party, and that he is known as the father of fascism? He supported a one-party state and strong government intervention in the economy. Does this mean fascism is really a continuation of socialism, and therefore actually left-wing? How does this all work? These are the tough questions that all leftists, from Marxists to anarchists and even to social democrats, have to answer. I've already made a video on the Nazis and whether they are socialists, so check that out after this. The main narrative is that Mussolini was kicked out of the PSI because of his support for Italians joining the war effort that was against the party's belief in neutrality. And after gaining power, he led a revised form of Marxism with a one-party state and all of that. But this isn't really right. Benito Mussolini supported a corporatist order of the economy, which had large government intervention. This is contrasted from the socialist economy, as the intent of socialists is to abolish corporations by liberating the workers, with common ownership and other benefits. But corporatists want to establish further privatization of production, industries, and the economy. Socialism uses government intervention in the economy to benefit the workers. Corporatism uses it to benefit the nation's wealth at the cost of personal freedom and workers' rights. As for the one-party state argument, it is based on nothing. Socialist countries have a one-party state known as a vanguard party that directly serves the people and which has a goal of furthering the nation to complete socialism and onwards. The fascists have a one-party too, but none of these principles are in mind, and often the party's members are used for union busting, book burnings, and imprisonment of socialists. The similarities aren't as damning once the context is added, and the real intention is revealed. If fascist Italy was left-wing, the economy wouldn't have been so privatized, and if the fascists were socialists, they wouldn't imprison and martyr socialists throughout their regimes. Tomorrow I will have a video on why liberals often side with the fascists, so subscribe for that.
Okay, we're gonna play some more videos of him, and that's it. Because this dude was with Adolf Hitler. Oh, look at this. This gonna be a good one right here.
Clinging to a hillside in the heart of the severe
Hold
Sicilian...
on. Make sure. No.
When Benito Mussolini met Hitler for the first time, he was uncharacteristically awkward.
Oh, nice Miller. Oh, nice Miller. Yeah. No, you said that. Oh.
Some argued he seemed desperate to be friends with the Fuhrer.
So maybe after we could go get ice cream. You know, they have mint. What? You get ice cream? No, I said eyes green. Your eyes are so green. That's more intense. That's worse, actually.
Mussolini was forced to deny he'd become obsessed with the German.
I have not become obsessed with Hitler, his wife Eva Anna Paula Braun, or his 7.5-year-old German Shepherd called Blondie. Rumors that I have planned a candlelit dinner for him in my house tonight are untrue. And so zoom in. I told you not to zoom out. Zoom in.
Eventually, Mussolini was forced to tone down the relationship when his speechwriters started making fun of him.
Hitler will be entering from the rear, and to help with naval warfare, I will provide a strong flow of seamen for the... Okay, not funny. I see what you've done. Take that back, please. Pathetic.
Mussolini, hailed by his compatriots as the genius of Italy, addresses 500,000 fascists from the Piazza del Duomo in Milan.
Che raccoglie parte milioni del popolo italiano ed incendia la sua esausta passione di grandezza.
Though his speech has caused a certain amount of comment abroad on account of its militaristic viewpoint, Il Duce's creed is accepted with enthusiasm in his own country, where unity of thought and action is the fundamental idea underlying the dictatorship.
A select band of British drivers.
All right, let's get back to fashionism. Okay. We're gonna play some more videos of fashionism, and then we're out. Okay. The 10 facts of fascism. Let's play this video right here.
Fascism is a cult of the leader who promises national restoration in the face of supposed human. All nationalism involves a mythic past. So you can say, look, we're Polish people who spoke Polish and were sheep herders and another bunch of Polish.
That ain't it. No. Hold on. Damn. Hold on. Uh, oh, here we go. We're gonna play 2 of these videos and that's it. Here we go. Okay.
What combines? Broadly construed, fascism is a radical political ideology that combines elements of corporatism, authoritarianism, nationalism, militarism, anti-liberalism, and anti-communism. The word fascism comes from the Italian word fascio, which may mean bundle, as in a political or militant group, or a nation. The term also comes from the fasces, that is, rods bundled around an axe, which was an ancient Roman symbol of the authority of magistrates. The symbolism of the fasces suggested strength through unity. A single rod is easily broken, while the bundle is very difficult to break. Originally, the term fascism was used by an Italian political movement that ruled Italy from 1922 to 1943 under the leadership of Benito Mussolini. Later, fascism became a more generic term that was meant to cover an entire class of authoritarian political ideologies, parties, and political systems, though no consensus was ever achieved on a precise definition of what it means to be fascist. Part of the difficulty arises from the fact that today there are very few self-identified fascists. The word has become a slur throughout the political spectrum since the defeat of the Axis powers in World War II, and it has been extremely uncommon for any political groups to call themselves fascist since 1945. In contemporary political discourse, adherents of some political ideologies tend to associate fascism with their enemies, or define it as the opposite of their own views. It must be noted that there are no major self-proclaimed fascist parties or organizations anywhere in the world. The governments and parties most often considered to have been fascist include Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler, Spain's Falange, Portugal's Estado Novo, Hungary's Arrow Cross Party, Romania's Iron Guard, and other similar movements that existed across Europe in the 1920s and 1930s. Some authors reject this broader use of the term, or exclude certain of these parties and regimes. Certain aspects of fascist rhetoric and political organization have shifted in the decades that followed World War II. And fascism has further evolved in the political landscape of the 21st century. However, it is important to note that core fascist ideologies and goals espoused by the likes of Hitler and Mussolini are still present in populist organizations today, and continue to shape fascist movements in countries around the world.
See, that's the true definition of fascism, because you know what fascism is? Let me screen share for you so you go see it. Here you go. Here you go. Let me blow it up for you so you know what it means right here. Because I looked up who's the founder of fascism. It was the guy right there. I looked it up. See? You know who the founder of fascism? Benito Mussolini. See, this the guy right here. We're gonna do videos on him too. So he's the main leader of him. Look, y'all can look him up. I already looked him up. Okay. Now let's look him up right here. All right, never mind. We're gonna play the last video of him and then we're gonna be out. Here we go. Because I just want to show y'all something since I ain't got no audience. So
He is known for being an Italian philosopher, educator, and politician. He is recognized for providing an intellectual foundation for Italian fascism. He is Giovanni Gentile. Giovanni Gentile, the influential Italian philosopher, educator, and politician, was known as the philosopher of fascism. His contributions to Italian fascism were not limited to politics but extended to providing an intellectual foundation for the movement as well. Gentile was deeply involved in the resurgence of Hegelian idealism in Italian philosophy, and he also developed his own unique system of thought known as actual idealism or actualism. As the protagonist of our story, Gentile's philosophical journey was marked by his exploration of the subjective extremes of the idealist tradition. He believed that reality is a product of the mind and that true existence lies in the individual's consciousness. Gentile's philosophy emphasized the importance of the subjective experience and the power of the human mind in shaping reality. His concept of actual idealism sought to reconcile the subjective and objective aspects of reality, asserting that true knowledge and understanding can only be achieved through the active engagement of the individual with the world. Gentile's philosophical ideas not only had a profound impact on Italian philosophy but also played a significant role in shaping the ideology of Italian fascism. His writings, including his collaboration with Benito Mussolini on The Doctrine of Fascism, provided a theoretical framework for the movement. Gentile's belief in the power of the individual's consciousness and the subjective nature of reality resonated with the core principles of fascism, which emphasized the strength and will of the individual in shaping society. Despite the controversial nature of his association with fascism, Giovanni Gentile's contributions to philosophy, particularly his development of actual idealism, remain a significant part of his legacy. His exploration of the subjective extremes of idealism and his emphasis on the power of the human mind continue to inspire philosophical discussions and debates to this day. Giovanni Gentile, a renowned philosopher, believed that fascism was the embodiment of the Risorgimento ideals, particularly those championed by Giuseppe Mazzini and the historical Right Party. He saw fascism as an opportunity to make his philosophy the foundation of a political ideology. However, Gentile faced a challenge with the organic nature of the fascist party itself, as it emerged naturally rather than being based on a pre-established doctrine. This lack of consensus among fascists complicated Gentile's vision, but he saw it as an embodiment of his belief in natural organic growth and dialectical opposition. Despite the challenges, Gentile's philosophy gained recognition and credibility through his association with Benito Mussolini, who acknowledged Gentile's ideas by promoting his authorship. However, the problem of the party persisted for both Gentile and Mussolini, as there was no unified way of thinking among fascists. Nevertheless, Gentile saw this as a reflection of how a state or party doctrine should evolve, with diversity and dialectical opposition intact. While Gentile placed himself within the Hegelian tradition, he also distanced himself from certain aspects he considered flawed. He criticized Hegel's dialectic and proposed that everything is spirit, with the dialectic residing in the act of thinking itself. Gentile took issue with Marx's conception of the dialectic, viewing it as a fundamental flaw in its application to system-making. According to Gentile, Marx had externalized the dialectic, turning it into an object within a material process of historical development. Gentile believed that the dialectic was not an independent, positive entity but rather a product of human thinking. He argued that concepts such as upward and downward or heat and cold only existed as dialectical opposites within human thought. They could not be confirmed as external realities separate from human perception. Gentile deemed Marx's externalization of the dialectic as an absurd and fetishistic mysticism. In conclusion, Giovanni Gentile's philosophy played a significant role in shaping fascism, aligning it with the ideals of the Risorgimento. Despite the challenges posed by the organic nature of the fascist party, Gentile saw it as an opportunity for natural growth and dialectical opposition. He distanced himself from Hegelian and Marxist views on the dialectic, proposing that it was an inherent part of human thinking rather than an external object. Gentile's insights continue to be relevant today, encouraging us to reflect on the nature of political ideologies and the role of human perception in shaping reality. Giovanni Gentile, born in Castelvetrano, Italy, was a philosopher who drew inspiration from various intellectual movements of his time. One of his influences was Friedrich Nietzsche, whose concept of the Übermensch resonated with Gentile's own idea of the uomo fascista. Gentile was also influenced by Italian intellectuals such as Mazzini, Rosmini, Gioberti, and Spaventa, who introduced him to the concept of self-construction or autoctasy. Additionally, Gentile was mentored by German idealist and materialist thinkers like Karl Marx, Hegel, and Fichte, who shared his goal of creating a theory for a structure of knowledge that made no assumptions. Despite his diverse influences, Gentile presented himself as a Catholic in matters of religion, and he emphasized the Christian heritage of actual idealism. However, there are instances where he identified as an atheist while still acknowledging his cultural Catholic background. This complex relationship between his religious identity and philosophical beliefs added depth to Gentile's intellectual journey. Gentile's academic career flourished, and he achieved great success as one of 4 exceptional students at the prestigious Scuola Normale Superiore di Pisa. Graduating in letters and philosophy in 1898, he wrote a dissertation titled Rosmini e Gioberti, under the guidance of Donato Giaggia, a disciple of Bertrando Spaventa. This dissertation showcased Gentile's dedication to exploring the works of influential thinkers and their impact on his own philosophical development. Throughout his career, Gentile held various positions in academia, contributing to the field of philosophy and shaping the minds of future generations. His multidimensional background and diverse influences allowed him to approach philosophical questions from unique perspectives, making him a notable figure in the intellectual landscape of his time. Giovanni Gentile's philosophy continues to be relevant as we navigate the complexities of modern life. His exploration of self-construction, the blending of different intellectual traditions, and the examination of religious identity offer valuable insights into understanding oneself and the world. By embracing the diverse influences that shape our lives, we can develop a more nuanced understanding of our beliefs and values, ultimately leading to a richer and more meaningful existence. Giovanni Gentile, a prominent Italian philosopher, found himself deeply intertwined with fascism in the early 20th century. In 1922, he was appointed as the Minister of Public Education under the government of Benito Mussolini. Taking on this role, Gentile implemented a significant reform known as the Riforma Gentile. This reform had a lasting impact on the Italian education system, reflecting Gentile's belief that philosophy and life were inseparable. Gentile's philosophical works, such as The Theory of Mind as Pure Act and Logic as Theory of Knowledge, formed the basis of his ideology, which he called actual idealism. He argued that philosophy should not be isolated from life, but rather should directly influence and shape it. For Gentile, philosophy was a governing force that could penetrate all aspects of life. As his influence grew, Gentile played a crucial role in shaping the fascist state. In 1925, he led 2 constitutional reform commissions that helped establish the corporate state of fascism. He went on to become the president of the Fascist State's Grand Council of Public Education and gained membership on the powerful Fascist Grand Council itself. Gentile's philosophical system formed the foundation of fascist philosophy, which viewed thought as all-encompassing. He believed that reality was unthinkable except in relation to the activity of thinking, and that every phenomenon was centered within a unified spiritual and transcendent framework. This philosophy served as an idealist foundation for legal naturalism, further reinforcing Gentile's belief in the absolute power of self-identification. Gentile's close association with Mussolini and fascism earned him the title of the philosopher of fascism. In fact, he even ghostwrote the first part of The Doctrine of Fascism, an essay attributed to Mussolini. Gentile described the characteristics of Italian fascism at the time, including state corporatism, the abolition of the parliamentary system, and autarky. Despite the downfall of the fascist government in 1943, Gentile remained loyal to Mussolini. He supported Mussolini's establishment of the Republic of Salo, a puppet state of Nazi Germany, even though he had criticized its anti-Jewish laws. Gentile accepted a position in its government and became the last president of the Royal Academy of Italy. Giovanni Gentile's involvement with fascism raises important questions about the relationship between philosophy and life. His belief in the direct influence of philosophy on society reminds us that our ideas and beliefs have real-world consequences. It serves as a reminder that we must critically examine the ideologies we subscribe to and consider how they shape our actions and interactions in our daily lives.
Do you want to explore more philosophers?
Alright, never mind. That's it, people. I'm out. Peace. It's almost 9 o'clock, man. I'm going to sleep, people. Or I just may stay up all night, man. Damn. Oh, Jesus. Shit. How long I be on here? Hold on. Let me go look on my list. Never mind. But I looked up the fascism and the founder of it. I put his name on the title, which he was the founder of the fascism, but every now I know about capitalism, communism, and socialism. But hey, just what it is, bro. This is exactly why I said this, bro. I'm trying to teach people something so y'all can listen and hear what I have to say. So we out. Peace. I ain't gonna stay up all night till 9 o'clock. I'm good. Ooh. All right, we're out.
Why?
so hard to make me surrender? Why you always in my face? Do you really think it's over? 'Cause I've been kicked when I'm so down, too much until it's numb. And there's nobody, nobody can steal my fire, nobody can steal my soul, nobody can steal my soul. Nobody can steal my fire, nobody can steal my soul, nobody can steal my soul. Now the sword is in my hands, I'm holding on for dear life. If you try to take it away from me, I hope you're up for a fight. 'Cause I've been kicked when I'm so down, too much until it's numb. And there's nobody, nobody can steal my fire, nobody can steal my soul, nobody can steal my soul. Nobody can steal my fire, nobody can steal my soul, nobody can steal my soul. I'm holding on my life till the very last breath. Got me feeling fucked up, see the floors are red, but now I know that I'm safe in a place called home. Lost good Nobody can steal my fire, nobody can steal my soul, nobody can steal my soul. Nobody can steal my fire, nobody can steal my soul, nobody can steal my soul. I'm holding on my life till the very last breath. Got me feeling fucked up, see the floors are red, but now I know that I'm safe in a place called home.
As we enter, shaking the room from the back to the center, making you move to the track, you surrender, or you scrunching your face closed up. As we enter, shaking the room from the back to the center, making you move to the track, you surrender, or you scrunching your face closed up, cause the bass goes boom as we enter. Scrunching your face closed up cause the bass goes. Shaking the room from the back to the center, making you move to the track, you surrender. Shaking the room from the back to the center, while you're scrunching your face closed up cause the bass goes. Shaking the room from the back to the center, making you move to the track, you surrender. Shaking the room from the back to the center, while you're scrunching your face closed up cause the bass goes as we enter. Shaking the room from the back to the center, making you move to the track, you surrender. While you're scrunching your face closed up cause the bass goes as we enter. Shaking the room from the back to the center, making you move to the track, you surrender. While you're scrunching your face closed up cause the bass goes.
I took a couple L's this week, it's been hard to get out of bed. She never looked that way at me, I swear she's fucking with my head. Take me far away from pain. Take me far away, far from yesterday. This ain't a love story, it's a funeral. Darling, damn, you look beautiful. You're killing my heart, it's the usual. Killing my heart, it's the usual. All you do is waste my time. Don't be the victim of your phony love. All you do is waste my time. Only your hypocrisy is killing me. All you do is waste my time. Don't be the victim of your phony love. I'm not looking for a love story anymore. Show me Romeo and Juliet with chemical. This ain't a love story, it's a funeral. Darling, damn, you look beautiful. This ain't a love story, it's a funeral. You're killing my heart, it's the usual. There's no signs of stopping now. She stares at me from the crowd, like it lives with him, just trying to tear me down. In this evil game, she's proud, living in my head rent free, knowing that she's killing me, she's killing me. All you do is waste my time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All you do is waste my time, yeah. All you do is waste my time, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not looking for a love story anymore.